Hi, today we're in Munich. We'll be meeting Joram Scher from Bachmann Scher, and we're going to introduce you to the TAG Heuer Carrera caliber 18 and compare it to a vintage Carrera from the mid-60s. So today I'm very glad to welcome Joram Scher from Bachmann Scher.
Yeah.
We will talk about the Carrera caliber 18. We'll also show you a more modern looking equivalent of this watch and even draw a comparison to a very early Carrera that Joram brought us today.
From a private collection, absolutely.
So first of all, what do we see here? I think there's a lot of things to like about this watch. As a first impression, you got the Heuer logo.
Which is nice because it's a TAG Heuer, but they work with the old TAG Heuer logo.
You got the size. I think with 39 millimeters, it really hits the sweet spot when it's about vintage-inspired modern watches.
Yes.
You know, in terms of its design, it's quite vintage because today there are so many watch brands that feature, you know, their heritage line right next to their modern lines, as we just said. But very often time, it doesn't quite look like vintage, right?
I agree. I'm quite happy with the so-called re-edition. So we always look how close are they to the originals, like IWC is doing that and Jaeger is doing that. And sometimes some brands really do a good job. I'm quite happy with what came out from the current version of this Heuer watch. I think it's a very attractive watch and it makes its point.
So, I mean, we all know that Carrera today is a very sought after piece.
It is.
Particularly in the last couple of years, it really made its point, let's put it like that. But besides the fact that it's just overall a very coveted and sought after model, what is it that made you want to have it?
I love race car driver chronographs. I like to drive cars and I like chronographs which were also used by the original drivers in the 60s and 70s. And if Heuer was strong for something, then it was that many famous race car drivers used Heuer watches like Niki Lauda, Joe Siffert. This was always a watch regarded to be a race car driver's chrono. I love this. I have another one from Rolex, but it's boring to only have Rolex watches in your collection. So I decided for one Heuer, and decided for this particular Carrera since it has the Valjoux caliber 72, which I fancy, and it has a very nice red register around the dial. It makes it quite rare. I've seen it only a couple of times in the last 20 years. It's an original unpolished condition. It's all authentic piece. This made this watch very interesting for me, and you can argue with me whether you like my jeans strap. I understand if you don't like it, but I actually like it, and makes it one of the few leather strap watches I have in my collection that I actually wear. I normally wear steel bracelet watches, and this watch I love on a leather strap.
I mean, we talk about a vintage Carrera, we gotta talk about
the T and the Swiss, of course.
What makes it special is the position of the T, right in the sub-register at 6 o'clock.
The first look, the first glance on the watch would be always the T and the Swiss. So this is the first thing I would check before I would check the tachymeter or the other scales or the quality of the dial. This is the first look you do on a vintage Carrera.
Even if technically speaking the watches are different, we have an automatic movement here, we have a hand wind chronograph movement here, Valjoux 72, we got a cam switch movement on the one hand, we got a column wheel, classic column wheel.
Very well described.
On the other hand, it's just 3 millimeters short of the new version. I think both are fantastic pieces.
If you would have to decide between the two modern watches, which one would you take? Would you go for the re-edition, or would you go to the more current design of the Carrera?
For me, that would be an easy one. As much as I appreciate the modernity, the robustness, and the modern look it's got, it's certainly appealing. I would still go for the vintage one. I would go for the vintage inspired one because I think it's just gorgeous. It's just a gorgeous looking watch.
At the end, it's also the optic and the way it feels when you're... Yeah.
I'm an optic guy as well. It's the first impression. It's got to be a gorgeous watch, and that certainly is one heck of a gorgeous watch. It hits the sweet spot with 39 millimeters, and it just got the overall vintage aesthetics. Yeah, I think Carrera Caliber 18 it is. I think TAG Heuer has done a very good job with this watch, and I got a soft spot for this watch.